The critics, rather brutally, pounded him with such comments as, "His smile is as deadly as Donald Pear's," or "His lines carry about as much conviction as an insecticide salesman at a flea circus." But in spite of the critics, the film is a fantastic box office success. And in America, Mr. Lazenby himself has been voted the most promising newcomer of the year. He's a man who appears to know his own mind and has maintained a stubborn sense of individuality. He grew a beard, for instance, and refused to shave it off for the film premiere. I asked him how much of the publicity he'd received had been deliberately fabricated.
Well, it all actually happened, and the press, I think, a publicity agent couldn't get that kind of publicity for a film.
But what about the reports that you were deliberately awkward and hostile?
Yeah, well, they were true in a way, because I was very uptight lots of the times, because I didn't understand exactly what was going on. And the only person you could ask, the only person who knew what was going on was the director. And the director was very busy with his technical things, and he had control of 2 units and a whole lot of things, and he didn't really feel that an actor was important in the role. He felt that you could get any guy, I think he mentioned on BBC Radio, that you could get any guy, put him in that part and make him James Bond, providing he looked similar to what the public feel James Bond looks like. And that vibration came off the director onto me all the time.
One of the biggest examples of that so-called hostility was the very much publicized rift between you and your co-star Diana Rigg. Now, what was the truth behind that?
Well, there was some guys standing around the ice rink, and she was having a drink, and I was tired, and everyone was tired, and we wanted to get the shot over with, and she couldn't drive the car properly, and I got into her about her drinking, and things like that. And it wasn't that at all. She felt sick that night, and I was at fault by getting into her, but it was just, I think everyone gets upset at some time. And we had a rift then, and I apologized later. I didn't think I had to apologize. I said to the director, "Diana doesn't speak to me, and he said, I think you had an upset with her sometime. Why don't you apologize?" I did, and it was a bit late then to apologize, and the whole thing didn't work. And it was down, but since then, we do speak, has spoken since, and it was pretty bad that came up, but that came up just by remarks from the studio about that garlic thing, which she had, but it wasn't as troublesome as it was all made out to be. I mean, it didn't bother me.
This is when she had eaten garlic before love scene.
Yeah, well, like she took precautions, which he said, but it was all built up into a big thing, and it was nothing, I enjoyed the whole scene anyway.
But you felt that this Bond should have been a gentler Bond.
Yeah, I think he should have been more humane, more understanding towards people in general. And he's not such a Superman, even though he's been taught karate and judo, and he's an expert with a gun, and he's a physical beast, if anyone wants to tangle with him.
Well, how about the director? Did he agree with your idea of Bond?
Well, no, they had a set formula, which was a winner previous, and you can't blame them for not agreeing with me, because I was a learner. I felt quite confident that if they did change it, like putting pop music behind it, and rather than the sort of light music they have, and things like that, it would have lifted the whole thing up again into another decade, 1970.
Did they hold Sean Connery above your head all the time?
A lot of the time. It was mentioned when he said, remember, it's different scenes. He said, well, when you're there in front of this window, remember how in such and such a scene where Sean flicked his eyes up like that and he did this and that, which is all dramatic stuff, which Sean does as an actor, which he knows what he's doing when he does it, and it works for him. But it doesn't necessarily say it'll work for me.
Well, do you feel that you got a bit of a raw deal in the sense that you weren't allowed to express yourself properly?
In that sense, yes. But then, on the other hand, I can't complain because it didn't come off so bad after all. I mean, what they were telling me to do worked. And yet, on the other hand, what I said I would like to do might have worked better. And you'll never know that.
It's said that not only did you fight with the director and your co-star, but you were also fighting with the film crew themselves.
Yeah, well, that is utter whatever. It's, the film crew were my mates the whole time. I mean, they were the ones that helped me through the film. I think only for them I might have gone insane. Most of the times I was out drinking, I was with the crew. I never went out with any of the executive staff of the film, very rarely anyway. It was only on occasions when the press were there or something like that, when I was asked to join them in certain places for dinner or drinks or what have you. And I was very upset about that, because lots of the guys from the crew I haven't seen since the film, and they're probably wondering themselves what was all this about, because, you know, they were very close to me on the film. And I hope that if I can get a crew like that on any other film, I mean, it'd be marvelous.
When the film was finished, you went on a publicity tour of the United States, which you paid for yourself. Why?
On principle, I was promised a tour of the United States to publicize the film. I was looking forward to it. And because of my beard and long hair, I wasn't allowed to go. I was allowed to go on the condition that I looked like James Bond. And I said, well, anyone can understand that James Bond isn't a real person, and they're not going to mind the fact that I haven't had a shave for a month. You know, everyone knows that James Bond must have a beard, even though you never see it in the film, if he doesn't shave. And anyway, it all ended up, they sent Diana Rigg, so I went on afterwards and arranged my own tour, which was fun and games, because I'd never been to America, and I was more or less going up to television companies and knocking on the door and saying, hey, excuse me, can I go on your television show? And they used to say, who are you? I said, well, I've got this film coming out in a month. They said, but you haven't done anything yet. We can't let you on the show without you've done something. The people want to see someone who's done something. And I said, oh, well, you know, and I chatted them into letting me on there, and had a lot of fun.
Well, looking back on it now, it's taken up a year of your life. You've taken a few kicks from some of the critics and some of the press. Has it been worth it?
I think so. I hope so, anyway. They say I didn't pay my dues, and I think that's what a lot of the kicks were about, by coming from nothing into the film. But I think that film was paying my dues, in a way, all in 1 year.